paintings feature cultural references that aim to motivate those who face adversity. The woman who raised me has been the best mother, teacher, role model, and muse I could ever ask for. My creations are the best way I can show my gratitude for my mother's support and motivation throughout my journey as an artist. So please join me in giving him a warm Wake Tech welcome, Jalen Jackson.
Thank you. As Barry said, I'm Jalen Jackson. I want to thank everybody for coming. Sorry, can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. This is actually really special for me because this is my first artist talk. I graduated in 2021 from A&T, North Carolina A&T, and it's just a special moment for me. So I really appreciate y'all for being here. I'm going to start by playing a video. You got me, Harriet? Thank you. And this is just an example of why I started creating some of the pieces that started creating the series that I'm working on not too long ago. No, you're fine. It happens. You just put it up there?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just stand right here.
Okay.
Of saying, you know what? This is Tucker Carlson's fault. This is some random, this is Donald Trump's fault. It's not. Police force. And we're getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities that are run by single mothers. If we want to discuss the breakdown of family that leads to disrespect for authority, that causes you to resist the police and run from the police and not comply with the police because you resist authority at all times, because there was no male authority in your home, let's have that discussion. But that's not where they want to take us. They want to take us down the path of saying, you know what, this is Tucker Carlson's fault. This is some random this is Donald Trump's fault. It's not.
So, when Julissa sent me that video, like a month or two ago, it gave me flashbacks of why I started this series. And when I was at A&T, one of my friends created a men's talk, and he hosted it for individuals, males and females who wanted to attend. We had a discussion about what it means to be a man and, the things that go on in our minds, because they say that we as men don't know how to really explain ourselves. Sometimes we don't know how to communicate. So it gave us just the opportunity to just talk to each other. So the topic came up, can a woman raise a man? And one guy raised his hand and answered the question and said, no, a woman can't raise a man. And at that time, I didn't know how to express myself about why I felt like it was wrong that he said what he said. But I was able to figure it out maybe a year later, being in Alia's studio. Alia has given me the opportunity to grow in her studio as she shared it with me, and just our conversations that we would have really did something, and it was a life-changing moment. So I ended up inviting a guy that I met playing basketball. I invited him to the studio for a drawing session, and usually I find that a lot of models, they have a hard time staying up during a session, painting or drawing. So I guess the music was a little too boring for him. So he asked me to put on a podcast, and it was a Kevin Samuels podcast. And the podcast was talking about women, and we ended up getting on the topic of mothers and parents. And he ended up telling me, he went on this whole tangent, like I couldn't even draw anymore because of what he was saying. But he just went on this whole tangent about women not being able to raise a man by herself. So I finally figured out about why I want to create or why I want to start this series. So the first painting I created for the series was Stronger Than You Think. But before I get there, before I get there, I want to start off by, can y'all still hear me good? Start off by talking about Accept Me As I Am. So Accept Me As I Am was the first painting I finished right after graduating from A&T. And this painting, even though it's a couple years old, it's still teaching me. It's still helping me evolve as an artist. And that's in many different ways. But graduating from college, like usually when people graduate, it's scary because they don't know what's coming next. Life hits them hard, and sometimes people choose vices, different vices. What motivates them, what allows them to be active, what keeps them going. Some vices are better than others, but as the painting depicts, sometimes a vice can be alcohol. Sometimes a vice can be exercising or anything. So no matter what, we all go through things because we're all humans, and no matter what, we should be accepted as we are, as humans, no matter what. So that was the first painting I made right after college, just trying to figure things out, what I want to do and where I want to go with my work. So I want to go back to the video. The guy was talking, and what he said was really crazy, and it's like, who cares what he thinks? But the fact that I've heard this similar thing many, many times before. So that's why I felt like it's a common thing that men have with thought process about women. Like ever since the beginning, history just talks about how we have looked down on women, and women were known for just bearing children or just taking care of the husbands or the boyfriends or just the kids, cooking, cleaning, and nothing else. But women are way much more than just that, and we need to start putting more respect on just women, period. So Stronger Than You Think is a painting just depicting the love a mother has for her son, her child. As I was creating this painting, during the process of figuring out what I wanted to do, I was thinking about colors. When I was in college, I took a color theory class with Darlene McClinton, and she really changed my way of thinking when it comes to colors in a painting, because colors can really change the way we perceive a painting through emotions. So I love the color purple. As you can see in that painting, I love the color purple. But purple represents royalty. So I had to figure out what other colors can I put together so that the whole painting is cohesive. So it was a big challenge for me because the biggest painting I had ever done in college was 24 by 36. This is 60 by 33, so it's really challenging. This is also challenging for me because this is the first time I had painted someone who also graduated from A&T. Usually, I would have painted someone from Google, which is not my pictures, not my work. We took a trip to a gallery in Raleigh as students from A&T, and a guy, Jason, who owns the gallery, told us to stay original. So ever since then, that just stuck with me. And I started to think about, Barkley Hendricks was an artist that inspired me when I first started painting and learning about painting. So I noticed how he would take photos of his subjects, of his models, to create his paintings, his work. So I wanted to, just try that out and see what it would do for me. So, stronger than you think is just the result of that. Does anybody have any questions?
So you won't have to hold it. Keep talking.
Yeah, it was moving down.
You good. You don't have to hold it.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, she graduated from A&T. Her and her son Jace, they came to the studio and we set up a session for the photographs, and I used different photographs, put them together to create this piece right here. Also, I noticed how I wanted to also include things from life. So I would set elements up like the textile, the fabric in the background, set it up in the studio, and originally it was gray. And like I said, I love the color purple, so I ended up changing the fabric to purple. So yeah, and if y'all want to ask questions at the end, we can hold the questions till the end as well. But like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
So did she wear that gorgeous color turquoise and her boy wear that
So no,
orange, or did she choose that?
I changed it. Yeah, I changed it just to follow my color scheme. All right. So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So did you do a black and white of it and then color it in the way you wanted it, similar to the pictures next to it?
Yes, that's a part of my process. The grisaille method is what I started out with. So basically, this is what it is. But I start off with the grisaille, which is the gray scale painting, and then go on top of that with color. Got you. Yeah, it's oil paint, all oil paint. Yep. Sorry, somebody had it.
I'm just wondering, I'm just an old student from A&T.
Got you.
Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you. I give pride.
Yes. But I couldn't quite hear, so I think when it adjusted your thing, you could hear.
Okay, cool.
So you're black and white, so I couldn't quite hear, so I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was in art education when I was there, in undergraduate. I'm a graphic designer.
Got you.
But your black and white paintings, and my son is here. He goes here to Wake Tech.
Got you.
So I'm glad some things I just want to make sure he hears. So your black and white paintings, did you say, or that's the way you started, or that's the simplest way that you like doing it in black and white first, and then making it color?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, did you say that, or did you say, because I couldn't hear?
Yeah, I definitely start with the black and gray first. It's called a grisaille. I start with the grisaille, and then I go on top of it with color.
And it's the black and white, and when you say on top of it, your style is all?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so black and white, then it's sort of like, okay, we're going to change the color. And what you were saying about the one that has purple,
Mm-hmm.
you were saying you wanted to switch that background
Mm-hmm.
out to being purple, but it was burgundy.
It was gray at first.
Oh,
Yeah, I actually painted it from life. So every painting except the first one over here is started in a grisaille, and then on top of that, I'll go with the color. But what I was saying with the second painting is that as I was painting the background from life, the actual fabric was gray itself, without me painting it gray first, and then I would go on top of that. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
and I just want to say one more thing, just looking at your work. It looks like when I first saw they said you were coming, I said, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like your subjects all, I want to say something from my point of view.
Okay.
Something about skin and showing that sort of sweaty or look from each painting, from one painting to the next.
Mhm.
Figures.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems like that's a thread that runs through in the people,
Mm-hmm.
a thread that runs through all of your paintings.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
So when did you decide you were gonna do figures like this?
When you say like this, and you said sweating,
Mother
can
and
you?
child.
Okay.
To me, they're mother and child, or auntie and child, or
Mm-hmm.
friend. But you know,
Okay.
what made you
If you're asking when did I decide to paint the type of subjects that I'm painting, it was right after I decided that men had this kind of thought process about women, and um, it was disrespectful towards women. So I wanted to do something to shine a light on women. So at that point, that's when I started painting those type of subjects.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
That tells me how you made the decision, because I couldn't.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Technical difficulties. My bad. All right. No problem. Thank you. All right. So to talk about the Grisard method, sometimes I just leave it as it is, and I call those studies. So sometimes a study is pushed farther than just 30 minutes. Sometimes I just leave it at 30 minutes. Sometimes I go past it and just spend a few days on it. So the result of that are these two studies right here. And I want to talk more about my process. So this title is Son of a Hustler. And obviously that painting is the first start of a larger scale painting that will be in the works later on. But this one right here is Growing Pains, which is the first start of why I made this painting. So before I get there, I want to talk a little bit about this one here. So when I was in middle school, my mom and I lived in Graham, North Carolina, Alamance County, and we stayed down the street from a Family Dollar. So I was trying to figure out. So all right, I want to talk about the word hustle or hustler. So the word can be taken in many different ways. Some people think that the word has a bad rep. And that's because I feel like it's because of the culture. So, for example, I don't know if anybody has seen the movie Hustle and Flow, but that movie kind of put a bad rep on the word. But when I think about hustle, I think about it in basketball terms. So, hustling for a rebound, hustling for a loose ball, hustling when it's 10 seconds left on the shot clock, it's in the fourth quarter. How are you going to win? How are you going to do what you can to win? And this is all representation of life. I feel like basketball it's definitely my favorite sport, but it's also a representation of life. What do you have to do to hustle to win? What do you have to do to hustle and be triumphant? So with that being said, my mother has been the greatest entrepreneur I've ever known. She's had multiple businesses, and she tried to teach me about what it means to run a business from a very young age. 11-year-old. I was 11 years old when I started trying to figure out how to run a business. So don't tell anybody this, but I was selling candy in school. Let's keep that between us. It's not really legal, but I was trying to figure out how to show my appreciation for my mother at 11 years old. She's done so much for me, and I recognized it. And from the jump, I think it was around 11 years old when I realized that my mother is the real Wonder Woman. So she's been my hero for all my life. So I had to show my appreciation. We had a next door neighbor who ran a boutique out of her living room, and I can't look at my mom right now. We ran a boutique. She ran a boutique out of her living room, and she would sell jewelry. And it seems like every time I get close, it goes off. Okay, can y'all hear me? She ran a boutique out of her living room, selling pocketbooks, jewelry, clothes, shoes. And I noticed how my mom would go in there sometimes, and she would buy something. So I was thinking, how can I get my mom a Christmas gift from this woman? So I'm not sure if my mom knows everything, but I'm not sure if she knew that I was trying to save money to buy her this Christmas gift. But I was selling candy for the majority of the school year, trying to figure out how I can afford to buy my mom a handbag from a neighbor. So she was able to teach me the ins and outs as much as she could, as she could to an 11-year-old mind, the ins and outs of what it means to run a business, revenue, profit, and how much the cost of goods would be. So we would go to Family Dollar and we would pick up candy. And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, what do kids like? What do kids my age like to eat? And I noticed that Starbursts were like really popping. So I got a lot of Starburst and, other candy. But what I want to say is that after all of that, I was able to get that handbag from my mom and surprise her on Christmas. So, so this painting depicts just the Family Dollar bag and my mom, who was always there to drive me to Family Dollar to pick up that candy, and and the composition book that's in my hand. So, like I said, this is just a part of my process. This is one of the paintings that will be done on a larger scale later on. So, any questions? All right. So, moving on to growing pains. This is probably around the same age, middle school as well, but for the majority of my life, I've always had hair on my head. It's probably high school when I had brush cut for maybe a couple years. Eric knows that. But there would be times where we would sit in the living room, we would watch TV, or we would just talk, converse, and those were really bonding moments for me and my mom. And one thing I always remember is that as she would braid my hair, she would braid it so tight that my head would be sore for like a week or two. And it's funny because when I first hung this painting up in here, it was a guy that walked by, and this is just his interpretation of the painting. But if you look closely, there's a Rubik's Cube in the kid's hand. And he saw the face of the kid and it was like, yeah, that's the face I make when I try to figure out a Rubik's Cube. And so it can be interpreted in many different ways, but as some of us know, when we're getting our hair braided, it hurts. It hurts like crap. So that's the face of me when I was around 11, 12 years old. So it's a couple other elements in this painting. One is the symbols that you see. So in this study, I was trying to figure out what I can do with the background. How can I make that interesting? So an Adinkra symbol is something that I came up with. The name of the Adinkra symbol is Sankofa. So it means to go back and retrieve, but I like to interpret it as learning from my past. So whatever I've done in the past, and bad or good, I always like to think about it and move forward through life, never forgetting what happened in the past and never trying to repeat what happened in the past if it was bad. But as we all know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, whatever works, but you always have that past to go back on and remember. So I felt like that was a really interesting element that I could add in this painting because it goes with the title, Growing Pains. And a lot of times, and when I say growing pains, I'm not just talking about how I stopped growing at the age of 14. The growing pains stopped around 14 and 15 in my legs. But I'm talking about how as we grow, as we continue to mature, we go through obstacles and hardships, and it's painful sometimes because life is not perfect, full of imperfections. So that's what I want to say about the study.
Jalen, can I ask, do you
Sure.
spend a lot of time imagining what you'll title your painting, or does it just come to you?
Say the last part again.
Does it just come to you, inspiration?
Usually it comes to me. At the start, actually, I probably come up with 3 titles for each painting, and I just choose the one that fits the best. But I noticed that probably in the future I might start doing double titles or something different, because I feel like one title may not always be just enough. Sometimes I want to add more to the title, which is why that painting down there has such a long title, because I just can't put it into just 2 words sometimes. But going to any questions? Any more questions? Okay.
Do you tend to do a study for all of your larger pictures, or what determines when you do?
So it's not for all of my paintings, but it's something I actually started doing recently, because I feel like that's a good question. I feel like when you do something the first time, it may not be as good as something if you try to repeat it and do it the second time. Like they say that each time you do it, it's supposed to get better. Now, it may not always be the case, but I found with doing my studies that the first time I do something, I want to try it again to see what changes and how I can improve it. What can I do to make it better? So it's just a really good exercise for me, because it helps me grow my paintings in a certain type of way. So I like to do it just as a part of my process. And sometimes, like, I might hate the study, and I have to realize why I hate it. Is it the composition? Is it the dimensions that I chose? Why do I hate it? And it's really informative, because that means I have to go back to the drawing board. I'm not ready to go to the large scale paintings right now. I have to figure something out first. And that's happened multiple times. So the study really helps me, because if I was to just jump straight into the large scale painting, I would drive myself insane trying to figure out why I can't make it work. So I try to do all the heavy duty work before I really jump into the large scale paintings.
How much time do you average, like, on one of the studies? Is that like weeks or a couple hours, or?
So it ranges. The studies that I have in my studio, obviously not here, they can be like 3 hours. Or I've just done like a study sketch, just to work out a composition that could be an hour or 30 minutes. Well, for these 2 studies here, around 3 days, but I have a full-time job as well as painting. So it's when I get off from work, which probably is around 6, and then I'll stay in the studio till 12, or sometimes I pull all-nighters. But let's say 6 to 8 hours for each time I work on a study, and it can be like 3 days, so 24 hours. And I'm terrible at math, but I went to school for art, not to be a mathematician. But this painting here, so the thing that I love about, I'm sorry, somebody had a question.
In growing pains, was it a conscious choice to have the physical pain of getting your hair twisted or braided, which I relate to the like the confusion or pain of like having to like challenge yourself with the Rubik's Cube? Was that like a conscious choice, or was it more like art replicating life?
Say that one more time.
Okay, so the parallel of the physical pain of getting your hair done
Mm-hmm.
and like the pain and the challenge of getting the Rubik's Cube,
Mm-hmm.
is that like a conscious choice?
Mm-hmm.
Like, pulling
Okay.
against each other?
Okay, I got you. So these 2 are my cousins, and when I went to their house, I found out that Jonathan loves Rubik's Cubes. He has a thing for Rubik's Cubes. So I wish it was, I wish it went like you think it did, but nah. He just showed up with a Rubik's Cube, and I was like, okay, I'm painting a Rubik's Cube now. So he was in the beanbag just playing with it, and the thing that I love about art is that you just never know the outcome. You never know what's going to happen, but you can make the best of any situation. Like I said, nothing is perfect. So I wasn't going to be like, Jonathan, put that Rubik's Cube away. I don't want to paint that. I'm going to let him be, do him. You know what I'm saying? So it also allows me to get closer to family. Art, I remember during, I say like my junior year, we were talking about art and what defines art. What is art? And, a lot of people, they always say, well, art, you express yourself through art. Art is an expression of your thoughts, your mind. And yeah, that's true, but what's deeper than that? I found that art brings me closer to family. So, like I said, Jonathan and Isha here, we haven't spent a lot of time together, but for the time that we did spend together, I was able to get closer to them and learn more about them. For example, there are no bricks in this study, but the bricks in this painting really mean something to not only the painting, but to Isha. Isha shared with me that she was going through something around the time that her house was being built or after it had been built, and she would paint these bricks. So those bricks in her living room were actually hand painted by her. And she would paint these bricks to try to get herself through the hardship, get herself through what she was going through. And I figured I can't leave those bricks out. They mean too much. So I had to include them just to represent that we have, like I said, vices. We have vices, we have things that get us through. And like I said, sometimes it's alcohol, which may not be the healthiest. Sometimes it's painting. And she chose to paint her way through the struggle. So growing pains, she was going through something and she was able to grow through it by painting. Like I said in this study right here, I had the Sankofa symbol already put in place in the background, but I wanted to also add an addition to it. So there's another symbol here, which is and I love it because it's in the shape of a heart. You have a question?
So I have a question about the wall.
You said the ball?
The wall.
Oh, the wall. Okay.
So you said she painted the wall, like as she had troubles. Did she paint it all at once, or was it like every time she had like something she struggled with,
Mhm.
she would paint like one brick?
That's a great question. It was over a course of time. It wasn't every time she had a problem she would paint a brick. She did it. It was a process, but she did it within probably like a couple weeks. I actually don't know how long it took her to do it. She didn't go into detail about it, but it wasn't every time she had a problem. She painted a brick, but that's a really good idea for people to if somebody's going through something, paint a brick on their wall. My mom wouldn't let me touch her walls, but but that's a really good idea. Any questions? Okay.
Are you a spiritual person by any chance?
That's a great question. So I grew up, I grew up Christian, and my grandmother right here, Grandma Deborah, she has always been someone I can go to when it comes to talking about God, when it comes to talking about Christianity. My aunt as well, and my mom. So I like to do research about different things, and that's another thing that I love about painting is that it teaches me so much. And I've been trying to figure out what I can do to get closer to my roots. And African symbols are really important when you're learning about history and African culture. So, like I said, the Sankofa symbol is really important to me because I remember as I stated earlier, when I went to the gallery as a trip from A&T, Jason, he had this room in the back, and the room had a wall full of Adinkra symbols, and there's so many out there, but each one of them has a different meaning. But if you actually study it, you can learn so much about just what the meanings, how the meanings resonate with you, and it just acts as it's a really good element to add to my paintings. So, to answer your question, I am a Christian, and I believe in God. I trust the process, and yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is because I'm looking at these paintings, and when I think about this extreme lighting, the contrast, it reminds me of like Madonna and Child.
Mm-hmm.
You speak about like this feminine figure, and I'm seeing this woman who's holding a child, and they have these like almost angelic, like this angelic lighting, these angelic faces, especially the one on the far right.
Mm-hmm.
It has this like mother figure. All of these do, and that's why I asked. You know, even your first painting, you have these hands together.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like centered. That's why when people pray, they center themselves. And that's
Right.
why I asked.
Right.
See some of that symbolism.
I'm glad you brought that up. When Ali and I would have conversations in the studio, we were talking about Madonna and Child, and I haven't paid too much attention to Madonna and Child because I feel like my experience with my mother and the experience I see with my aunt and my cousin, her son, is enough to capture any kind of information I want. Madonna and Child could teach other people, but just my experiences with my family is what I usually look at when I'm trying to figure out what I want to talk about, what I want to paint for my subjects. Got you.
There's a blue jar on the table
Mhm.
there, and it has writing on it.
Mhm.
Can you talk about what that writing
I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot. How could I forget? So, so the blue jar, as well as the other hair product jars or bottles. One thing that I love to do is, talking about my process, before each painting, I go to a store and I just try to find something that speaks to me in a way. It doesn't necessarily always have to speak to me, but I want to find something that I can incorporate in my paintings. So the hair care products that I bought, I wanted to set them up in my studio and paint them from life. All right, so I noticed that the hair care products, they weren't black owned, but they were talking about, I think the brand was African Pride or something like that. So I looked it up and I said, okay, cool. I want to pick this up because it seems like it would be black owned. African Pride has to be black owned. But when I did more research, it was not black owned. So I said, what can I do about that? If I'm painting about something like this, and this is, and I want to attach it to the culture, I want to figure out a way to change this to make it black owned. So I ended up changing the branding of the jar, and I included writing in the jar. And the writing are basically the words that describe me and why my mother, and how my mother instilled these words in me as she would do my hair. So, sounds a little wacky, but as she put these hair products in my hair, and my hair grew, the words such as ambition, wisdom, patience, charisma, courage, fearlessness, chivalry, success, all of those words made me who I am today. So from an 11-year-old boy, her doing my hair and putting all this knowledge in me, all of these characteristics is how I grew to be the man that I am today. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that.
You are a young man. How old were you when you realized that you could draw?
Oh, I've been drawing since I was a little kid. I don't even know how old I was. Did I start elementary school yet, Mom? At 5, maybe. So, I actually remember one of the first drawings I ever did, and this is being live streamed, so I can't really say what I did, what I drew. But I will say that I got in trouble for it. I taped it on my door, and I taped it on my door. My mom ended up walking past the room, and you know, stuff happened. So, but yeah, I've been drawing, or like I said, people say, how do you define art? And art is, yeah, it is an expression. So I was asked a question from a neighborhood kid, and it was a gang related question. So as I grew up, my mom always told me gangs are bad. Don't join a gang. Gangs are bad. So I already had that in my mind, and instead of just going to talk to somebody, going to talk to my mom or anybody else, I created a drawing, and the drawing was one gang versus another gang. And as I said, I'm a kid, so I don't know any better at this time. I'm just expressing myself. So I ended up drawing it on a piece of paper, and of course, it's going to shock a mom, shock a parent when they find their kid is drawing gang related stuff. But and by the way, I'm not in the gang. But I guess she was more so worried about what I was going through, and her love for me showed me like, okay, gangs are definitely bad. That's a no-no. Don't draw anything like this again. So, yeah, I've been drawing since I was a little kid, expressing myself as a little kid. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay. And as I stated before, I do paint from pictures, but I also paint from life. And usually I try to incorporate something from life in my paintings. So this table itself wasn't painted from life, but the hair care products, like I said, I went to the store and bought them, set them up as a still life, and painted them from life. And like I said before, I'm always thinking about colors, and what can I do with colors. So sometimes it could be complementary colors, triadic color scheme, anything like that. But I always try to pay attention to it, and when I'm doing it, how it works, how it helps me communicate what I want to communicate in the painting. All right. All right, reasons he never went to sleep hungry. I love this painting. Like I said, during my process from the start, I go to stores or anywhere I feel like it's necessary to try to add these elements in my work. So I never knew as a 20-year-old or 24, 23-year-old, I'll be in a store a store like Joann's, looking for textiles and fabric. But I went in there trying to find a fabric that spoke to me in a way. So I ended up finding this kind of copper, yellow, gold, orangish fabric, and I was like, okay, what can I do with this, and how can I also find other colors, other fabrics that will help me create this painting? So I ended up finding a couple different options, and red and green was the colors that stuck out to me the most. And I always think about how the paintings that I saw in my history classes and the paintings that I see in my books, a lot of them always have like either some type of color scheme. Like red and green is really prominent with paintings from the past. So I wanted my own red and green painting. So I ended up incorporating that. A lot of people ask me, what do the puzzle pieces mean in the painting? So it can be interpreted in a couple different ways, but as I was talking about before, obstacles and hardships throughout life, they are what make us who we are today. And my mom, like I said, she's Wonder Woman, so she would create different ways and she would put different pieces together to give me the best life that she could. Life is one big puzzle piece, and we have perfections, we have imperfections, but you know, some pieces are together, some pieces are separated because that's just how life is. Sometimes we can find the pieces, sometimes it takes a while for us to find the pieces. So we just have to, you know, figure out how we want to go about doing that. Oodles and noodles. Oodles and noodles in that bowl in the painting means a lot to me, and it represents a lot in the African American culture. So a lot of us grew up on oodles and noodles because sometimes it just wasn't anything else in the kitchen, or mom didn't come home to cook dinner yet. So, you know, sometimes you just got to find a snack. You know, I was never a chef, and I can only cook hot dogs and oodles and noodles. So I ate a lot of oodles and say it again. I ate a lot of oodles and noodles growing up. I can cook some chicken though. I can cook some chicken. So, oodles and noodles. Those were the bowl and the oodles and noodles were painted from life because, like I said, I like to add elements from life. The puzzle pieces were painted from life. I had to figure out what I wanted to do with the background, and I had asked Shelly one day, could she come to my studio and just, you know, give me her feedback on the painting in the background. And she was telling me that she loved what was going on. And at that time, I hadn't finished the puzzle pieces, but she loved what was going on, and she just said that maybe the puzzle pieces can be pushed even further. So I just kept going and going and going. And like I said from the jump, I like to strategize a lot. So I had to go to Michael's to find wooden puzzle pieces. And then I went from Michael's to a paint store, Sherwin-Williams, I think. And I ended up getting wood stain. So I had to really customize these wooden pieces. And sometimes I'm an overthinker, and I have to start telling myself it's not necessarily overthinking, it's just me processing things. Sometimes processing takes a long time. Sometimes it only, you know, takes a little while. But sometimes I might over strategize because, you know, I just want to make this the best thing that I've ever created before. So sometimes you just go too far. Sometimes you got to know where to stop. So I didn't stop at the wood stain. The puzzle pieces were really, really small. So I was like, if I'm going to paint really, really small puzzle pieces on this background, I'm not going to be finished with this until 2030. So I had to figure out a way to make it work compositionally and make the design work. So I painted them probably like 6 times as big as what they actually are in real life to take up space, to add to design, add to the composition. Composition for a while has been a true challenge for me, especially in college. I was trying to figure out how can I make something compositionally correct, if that's even something that exists. But what if it goes wrong? What can I do to help it? What can I do to make it look, you know, decent? So the puzzle pieces were really, really helpful. I went to Clarence's show at CAM not too long ago, and one of his paintings, I want to say, is it Candyland, Clarence? Candyland, is that the name of the painting? So Candyland was one of the pieces that I love so much about his show. And it made me think about games, and it really inspired me to figure out how I can incorporate, you know, childhood things that we would do, well, the games that we would play as kids. And obviously I'm not going to put Candyland in my painting if I saw Clarence do it, but I feel like that was somehow subconsciously in my mind as I was trying to figure out what I want to incorporate in this painting. So puzzle pieces just clicked for me, and it also represents my mother and what she did to give me the best life that she could. A lot of times when I was at Anchor Light before I got the residency at Art Space with Carly and Anna, and like I said, I was at Anchor Light, so I would go to Miss Precious's studio, and a lot of our talks, a lot of the things that she's sharing with me, her wisdom, her knowledge, it really opened my eyes to a different way of thinking about my artwork and what I wanted to express in my artwork. And someone asked me earlier, was I spiritual? When I first met Miss Precious, she said, you need to take a trip to Africa. And I've never been on a plane before, so I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get there. But I guess I need to, I see how she's looking at me now. I need to go ahead and get on a plane and, go to Africa to just, to learn more and just explore the land. But I feel like part of the reason why I added those symbols in there is because Miss Precious has also been in my subconscious about the way I think about my work and how I want to incorporate things. So she's really been, she's had a pretty great role in my journey as an artist so far. And like I said, Alia has played a really, really big role in my journey as an artist as well. And this has been for a couple years. So, does anybody have any questions? Oh, you go. Sorry.
Is there much thought put into the size of your work?
Yeah, it's a lot of thought. It's how much can I take before I go crazy? So I want to paint as big as I can, but also paint as quickly as possible because I just don't want to spend too much time on a painting that prohibits me from making other work. So I have to figure out, usually when I'm thinking about the size of a painting, just how much can I take? What can I do? Can I push myself? Like I said earlier, the paintings that I would make in college were 24 by 36, which is not that big compared to 60 by 48 painting. But I wanted to challenge myself and just go bigger, because a lot of times in college and undergrad, my professors would be like, you need to paint bigger, man. I need to see your stuff on a larger scale. And I would be scared. I would be scared, and I wouldn't want to paint larger because I felt like I couldn't. So I was really prohibiting myself from growing at that time. And like I said, I still want to paint bigger. I'll definitely be going bigger in the future, probably really soon, really. So, yeah, I put a lot of thought into it. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Have you thought about digitalizing your art to make it bigger?
Digitalizing my art to make it bigger. Are you saying like actually create work on the computer and?
Like export your work from hand, like on a canvas
Uh-huh.
to the computer,
Uh-huh.
and then print it out as like a very big.
Uh-huh. Excuse me. So that would just be a regular print, and I don't really create prints for my work. But no, I've never thought about that because I feel like whatever I do physically, fine arts, whatever I do on the canvas, on the panel, it is what it is. It's as big as I'm gonna go at that moment. Because if I was to create a 12 by 12 painting, put it on a computer, and blow it up, there's no telling how it's going to look at a very large scale. So I don't necessarily do that.
So you were talking about overthinking and your process
Mhm.
and knowing where to stop. When will the series, this homage to mothers,
Mhm.
end, do you think? Do you have
I don't have a time frame. I have a lot of memories because my mother is a great mother. So it's so much that I can talk about. And I have a lot of ideas. My aunt is a great mother too, and my grandma. Really great mothers. So when it just comes to my mom, it's so much that I can make. When it comes to my aunt, it's so much I can make. When it comes to my grandma, it's so much that I can make. Because I noticed that Google doesn't give me everything that I want. I have to create my own subject matters. I have to dive deeper. I have to connect with family, connect with others. It's one of the reasons why I stepped away from social media for a while. It's because I felt like I was getting too far away from reality. We can talk to people online that we don't know or we may know all day, every day, but that real connection comes from real life. Talking to somebody face to face, being in someone's, atmosphere. That's really important to me. Social media, I feel like it's been detrimental to my mental health. So I feel like getting away from it really helped me evolve and grow as a person and as an artist. So there's so much to talk about, and I just can't wait to talk about more. So the series probably won't stop anytime soon. Hello, Shelly.
I just wanted to commend you on this work.
Thank you.
You mentioned Alia Elbamani and sharing a studio space with her at Anchor Light for a while, and there's multiple Anchor Light people here today, and it's been really cool just to watch on the sidelines for me as you took full advantage of everything that opportunity had. And I would come in or leave work late at night and there's Jalen's car. Come in the weekends, there's Jalen's car. And like all your studio mates and taking advantage of all of the different artists that were there and having studio visits and talking to people, and the progression of your technical skills over the time that you focus so deeply on your work has just been phenomenal.
Thank you.
And to get that residency at Art Space is a big deal for you and for Art Space. But almost even more importantly, like there's a lot of artists that are good painters, but not all of them have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people in the world that have worthy thoughts and ideas, but maybe they don't have a means to express them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what it seems like you're doing very well is taking all of those skills that you're gathering and funneling them into saying what you feel like is important for the world to hear.
Thank you.
And that's so special. And that video that you showed us in the beginning, that was painful. Those words were hard to hear. And there's a lot to unpack there about how to break down all the things that person said that were incorrect.
Right, right.
And that might be a hard conversation to start with just a person talking, but you have achieved a window into those, like an entry point into those really difficult conversations with this artwork. And starting from a place of healing and of love and moving forward in that is something that not all artists can do. And so I'm really happy for you, and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So like I said, through my experience, it took me a while. Like in college, I couldn't find out how I could make a body of work. I started out drawing or painting celebrities, and I would be hurt when I would post a celebrity like Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole on Instagram, and I'd be hurt if they never saw it. It's like I've spent all this time on this painting, and you don't even like the picture. I hate social media, but and it could be because the work just wasn't there yet, and that could be a really good reason. But at the same time, it taught me something. It taught me that why am I going to paint someone I've never met before, I've never been in the same vicinity before? Like, why would I paint them when I have all of these other people that need love too? All these other people, like my family, that need to be painted. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I try to keep it real. I try to keep it real, and the subjects that I paint, I try to paint subjects that not necessarily, because I'm not saying not all subjects matter, but subjects that matter to me. So that's just a part of my process. So I really appreciate you saying that. I can't wait to quit my job so I can. But yeah, those nights, hard nights, and it's still going. It's not going to stop. It's a lot of long nights, and I'm appreciative that I can even like work those long hours like that.
Any advice or suggestions you have for new artists or fledgling artists?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I especially here at Wade Tech, I started out as a business management student at A&T, and I will never forget. So I was a business management student until my junior year in college, and I will never forget when I went to my advisor, my business management advisor, and I told him I was changing my major. First thing he said was, "Come on, man," and I think and it was so much doubt in his voice, so much doubt in his face. And it was really like a slap in the face to me, because it was like, why not say, well, let me see some of your work. Like, it could be a really good choice for you, or anything positive. It was immediate negativity. And that really pushed me. So it was really interesting to go to a grocery store and have an A&T shirt on in Greensboro, or have an A&T hoodie on, and someone would be like, oh, you go to A&T? What's your major? And I say business management. Oh, stay with it, man. Like, keep going. But then when I switched my major and I started saying visual arts, oh, okay. Good luck with that. So if anybody's ever having that problem, especially here at Wake Tech, any discouraging words that people are giving y'all, use it as fuel and motivation. Alia, she uses a lot of negativity as fuel and motivation for her too, but I love to hear negativity. I eat it. I love it because I love when someone doubts me, or when someone says something to me that it's like, you can't do it. I love when people tell me I can't do something, because that's gonna provoke me to try even harder. And so just use the negativity as fuel, and keep going. Harriet?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think we have time for one more question before we wrap up, and we have some snacks today as well, and some time to be with you.
Okay, cool. Alia, last question.
So I cannot wait just to continue watching this amazing journey. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
But especially, I cannot wait to you paint yourself and
Until I paint myself.
your mother.
Oh. It's definitely in the works. You know, that's something that's scary to me, because that's something that I have to make dag near perfect. Because it's me and my mom is the reason why I started this whole thing. So yeah, I can't wait for that too. And like I said, I really appreciate everything you've done in my journey as well. It's been very special.
I'm for the co-op.
Yeah. Right. Can we get one more question here?
Of course.
Carly.
This is more of, how can we find out more about your work and see more of your work moving forward, or follow you? I know you say you're not really on Instagram right now.
Yeah. So I took Instagram off my phone for months, and I ended up downloading it again because of what's going on now, just to promote. But my Instagram is Jalen T Jackson, Jalen T Jackson, and my website is jalentjackson.com, and my email is jalenthecreative@gmail.com. So that's a lot of information to get in contact with me or to see my work. Anybody else? I really appreciate everybody for coming today. It really means so much to me. Like I said, this is my first time I've ever done something like this, so it's really special. Each and every one of y'all, I really appreciate y'all, and I'll never forget it.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. There's some snacks over here. Please mingle and enjoy one another's company and check out the paintings. Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet.
Some people didn't know your mom. I wanted you to introduce your mom.
If none of y'all know, I'm sorry. If none of y'all know, this is my mom right here, Shamita. Thank you.
Very good. Oh, I wanted your first painting was drawing passed away. Remember?
I forgot all about that.
That's why
I should have said
5 years
something.
old, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably sooner than that because I was still in Salisbury when I started drawing.
If I had it, I would have held it up and said,
Bruh, I appreciate you, bruh. My boy, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Even that's a violation for sure.
Oh, my bad, bro. My bad. I appreciate that, bro. Damn, hey. Hello, kid.
I have a video of like your mom when you were talking and she was emotional. Can I airdrop it to you? Do you have an
Yeah,
iPhone?
yeah. So I,
when Jalen was
Okay, I think mine is on the contact. I mean,
go to sleep. And so his mom used to call me from Salisbury.
congratulations.
thank you, Justice. I really appreciate you for coming.
Are you kidding me? I was not going to miss this.
Did you get a chance to look up close at the painting?
No, I'm going to go right
Oh,
now.
okay. All right, I got you.